Digital Productions' involvement in producing the images of the moving Jupiter footage for the movie 2010 started with a meeting out at Jet Propulsion Laboratory with Richard Terrill, and I believe Jim Blinn was there, and several people from Digital Productions, including John Whitney Jr. and Gary Demos and myself. We sat around and discussed various techniques. We looked at Jupiter footage and thought about how we might actually make it appear to flow like that on screen. And we rejected various ideas about interpolating the original Jet Propulsion Laboratory data frame to frame, and fractal methods to generate planets that looked like Jupiter, because it was realized fairly early on that what we really were after was motion. So basically, we originally started with JPL data, Voyager satellite data, and it turned out to be insufficiently resolved and not enough contrast and detail in those images to achieve the final look that we needed to have for the 70 millimeter projection that was going to be used ultimately for 2010. There also were artifacts in there, moons in the way, and gaps in the data, and things that were just difficult to resolve. So we opted for a technique of taking the original Voyager data, making a very large photographic blow-up of that, and turning it over to Ron Gress, the artist at Boss Films, to go in and hand paint on top, directly on top of the photograph, a very, very high detail, high contrast, very exquisite colors rendition of the surface of Jupiter that we then brought back here and scanned in multiple segments. They were photographed at Boss Films again by Virgil
Morano. Yes.
Morano, who took a sequence of photographs of different portions of this so-called snake skin, the full surface image of Jupiter that JPL provided, and then was enhanced by the artist.
Once we had this image, this large snakeskin, we started picking out features on the snakeskin, every cloud feature that we could find on the snakeskin. And for each one of those features where something was swirling up, we added a cloud feature that would mimic that type of swirling.
Added a little vortex encoded on the tablets that we have here for normally encoding objects, encoded little vortices. Roughly 1,000 of the things, that everywhere you see something like the great red spot or any of the little oval features, there was a vortex there to provide a circular motion to the fluid dynamics.
So in some sense, we generated an ad hoc wind field over the planet Jupiter at one time, and we combined that along with this image that Ron Gress painted into a texture which we moved frame by frame by decomposing this image, this texture, into a series of little particles or chunks of cloud.
5 to 10 million little chunks of cloud
that we would move every frame by frame according to how the wind field, the flow field on the planet was that we were simulating.
And at each and every time step, each and every frame, we would update both the wind field, the vorticity field, and we would update this picture. And we'd end up with a two-dimensional picture that was freshly moved each and every time step, each and every frame, and then mapped onto a sphere. And so what you then have is this image of the spherical, three-dimensional Jupiter, whose cloud structures are flowing and moving across the surface.
That's right.